All right, everybody, let's do this. When I say Sep, you say timber. Sep. Sep. When I say 90, you say 3. 90. 90. When I say 30 years ago, you say this month. 30 years ago. You all lost it right there. All right, so it's September 2023. 200,000. Whoa, in the future. 2023, which means we're talking about September 1993 this month. If you're new, yes, it's exactly as it sounds. Every single month I put out a new episode where I talk about shit that I feel like talking about that happened 30 years ago this month, September 1993. At this point, I would have been just starting my sophomore year of high school, didn't have a driver's license yet or a job, but goddammit, I was balls deep in pop culture and metal and rock and all of the things going on, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Once again, no news items to discuss, or at least that I thought was interesting enough to include in my show, so let's move on to the charts. Top albums. All right, so in the US, the number one album for the first 2 weeks of September 1993 is a holdover from last month, and that is River of Dreams from Billy Joel. But then an old buddy from last year swoops in and takes over the number one spot for the last 2 weeks of September, and that's Mr. Garth Brooks with the album In Pieces. It's really weird talking about some of these albums that were number one in the country because to me at the time, I didn't know anybody that was still listening to Garth Brooks. That shit seemed like it all happened when I was in junior high. But to be fair, I was an alternate youth, so not only was my taste not represented in the album charts, it was also not represented in
the Hot 10.
That's right, the Hot 10. The 10 most popular songs for the first week of September 1993, courtesy of Billboard. At number 10, Tony still hanging on with If I Had No Loot. And in case you're wondering, yes, you can New Jack Swing on My Nuts. At number 9, this song dropped down from the top of the charts last month. The Proclaimers with 500 Miles. I'm not going to sing that. I gave you 200% of me last time. So, you know how it goes. At number 8, the King of Pop, Michael Jackson with Will You Be There. That one's a weird one because, I remember it, but it wasn't a very impactful song for me. So much so that, I know the lyrics to all kinds of Michael Jackson songs. Not that one. I just vaguely know the melody. And maybe that's because most of the song is a choir going, ooh, 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 will you be there? At number 7, man, I forgot how many hits these girls had. SWV, Sisters with Voices with Right Here. Now in parentheses it says Human Nature / Downtown, so I'm wondering, was that the remix that has a little bit of Michael Jackson's Human Nature in it? If that's the case, then Michael Jackson is on this chart 2 times right next to himself. And at number 6, right beside 2 times Michael Jackson, is 1 time Miss Jackson If You're Nasty with If. If I was your woman, the things I'd do to you, but I'm not. Way to let all of us down easy, Janet. At number 5, we actually have an alternative rock song on the top 10 from an album that I actually owned back in the day. Runaway train never going back. Wrong way on a one-way track. Seems like I should be getting somewhere. Somehow I'm neither here nor there. At number 4, we have Jodeci with Lately. See my last video for why I have no idea what this song sounds like. At number 3, we got Tag Team still holding on with Whoop, There It Is. Whoop, There It Is. Okay, all right, hold on. All right, look. I'm talking to you. Just you. Okay? Why won't you participate? Why even be here if you're not going to participate? All right? At number 2, Mariah Carey with Dream Lover. Do, 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 do. Ooh. Once again, I know that part more than I know any of the lyrics. And at number 1, I mean, it's not bad. I don't understand how this song was so popular, but here it is, UB40 with I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. I've done other versions of that, singing it on other episodes, and I'm cutting some of you a break. Some of you hate it when I sing, so there you go. Happy birthday. Movies! That's right, it brings us to the movie box office. What were the number one movies in September of 1993? For the first 2 weeks, no surprise, the number one movie in America was still The Fugitive. It was a big deal, but guess what?
I don't care!
But after that, it was followed up by two movies that absolutely were not a big deal. The first one being the movie Striking Distance with Bruce Willis and Sarah Jessica Parker, and that's all I know about this movie. I'm sure it was on HBO and Cinemax and all that shit post this, and I caught some of it, but literally I think about the movie, and I'm just like, it's just Bruce Willis riding in a boat. And then for the fourth week, a movie that I did see in the movie theater, a movie called The Good Son, starring Macaulay Culkin and that one other dude that gets mixed up with other dudes. But I remember enjoying the movie, and the reason why we all wanted to go see it was because the kid from Home Alone was supposed to be like the villain of the movie. Now, whether or not this movie holds up today, 30 years later, I don't know. You tell me. But none of those movies matter because on September 10th, a movie that I very much love came out, and it was not number one. Should have been. It's number one in my heart for September of 1993. The movie is True Romance, starring Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette. Is there a better fucking duo in the world? No. With an early script that was written by Mr. Quentin Tarantino. And to be completely honest, I like this movie more than any Quentin Tarantino directed movie.
You must have thought it was White Boy Day. Huh? It ain't White Boy Day, is it?
Oh man, it ain't White Boy Day.
Because it was directed by the late Tony Scott, who fucking ruled. I know this is not a movie channel, and I don't talk a lot about film directors, but I remember back in the day, all these action movies that I just thought were so well done, the movie would start, and I'd be like, directed by fucking Tony Scott. There you go. But anyway, the movie didn't do great at the box office, but I really love it, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Album releases. All right, we actually have several albums to talk about, two of which I don't have on vinyl, and they're both very embarrassing, so bear with me. But on September 14th, the first album from the band Cynic was released, Focus. Fucking groundbreaking extreme metal album. And at the time, it was just death metal. They were just kind of a weirder death metal band to me. In fact, so weird, depends on your standards. But it went way over my head as a 15-year-old kid, let me tell you. But years later, I would grow to truly appreciate not only this album, but this band. Rest in peace to fucking half the band, right? Jesus Christ. But what was young old head listening to that came out on September 14th? You may be asking yourself. And yes, there was no other album that I was going to buy at that particular moment that I was going to listen to and would continue to listen to for years and years to come. The Judgment Night soundtrack came out. Now, the movie hadn't come out yet. The movie doesn't come out till October. But this was, like Last Action Hero, where they put out the soundtrack a little bit before, and the fucking hype for this soundtrack, we were so excited to see that movie. But I won't be talking about that. I'll talk about the movie next month. But if you've been living under a rock, this is one of the best soundtracks ever made. I guess it's early rap metal, but it's not bands doing rap metal songs. It's rock bands and rap groups doing shit together, and every single fucking track is a banger. My favorites, of course, being Helmet and House of Pain, De La Soul and Teenage Fan Club, Booyah Tribe and Faith No More, and of course, Ice-T and fucking Slayer. Covering a few exploited classics from one of my favorite albums, Troops of Tomorrow. Anyway, killer soundtrack. Moving forward to September 21st, another album that I don't understand how I don't have this on vinyl. I'm going to work on it. It's one of those ones that I'm going to have to get a reissue, but I got to figure out which one's the good one. Help me out if you know. But the album is Houdini from the Melvins. My favorite Melvins album. That's to huge Melvins fans, that's probably pretty mid. The young people say that. But I can't deny this album came out and I fucking loved it. And sure, I was turned on to it because some of it is produced by Kurt Cobain and I was a huge Nirvana fan at the time. I mean, I still am a huge Nirvana fan, but I just absolutely love this album. So much so that the very first time I would ever step in front of an audience and play with a band a couple years later, we would cover the song Set Me Straight from this album. Now, whether it was a coincidence or not remains to be seen, but also on September 21st, In Utero from Nirvana was released. The last Nirvana album, sadly, but a fucking amazing album. Possibly my favorite Nirvana album. I don't know. It's tied with Nevermind and Bleach for my favorite Nirvana album. But this was a big deal. This fucking eclipsed everything when it came out, especially for me, because I was a huge fan of Nevermind and a huge fan of Nirvana, and I was just waiting to hear what they were going to follow it up with. And I remember originally they announced that they were going to call the album I Hate Myself and I Want to Die. And the reports were all, it's really raw, and some record execs are saying it's unlistenable. And I was like, holy shit, I can't wait to hear this. Now, this is very listenable, but I guess if you're wanting another Smells Like Teen Spirit, it's not really here, but so much amazing shit is on this album. I think that the song All Apologies is one of the most beautiful songs ever recorded. This version, not the unplugged version, folks. Skipping forward to September 28th, the third album from Saigon Kick, Water. This is the one where all of a sudden Jason Bieler is running the show and doing all the vocals and songwriting. I mean, he did pretty much all the songwriting to begin with, but the original vocalist left, and that left Jason Bieler to work his fucking mad genius magic on this fucking album. It is, and I'm never going to shut up about the fact that the song On and On from this album should be covered by some sort of well-known group, maybe a Harry Styles, One Direction, is that still a thing? One of those groups should cover the song On and On from this, and it will be a hit. I guarantee it. Also on September 28th, one of my favorite hip-hop albums of all time, 93 to Infinity from Souls of Mischief. Alternative hip-hop at its best. When it comes to that style, this is in the top 5 for me, easily. I don't. This is, just go find this album and just smoke a spliff, have a little cocktail, just relax and let the vibes of this masterpiece wash over you, and your third eye will open and you will see the entire universe and your entire future. It's a great album. Okay, last but not least, an album that I don't have on vinyl, but that's because it has never been released on vinyl and probably never will. The album is Heavy Bag and the band is called Stick. And this was one of 2 albums that they released. And this album got a little bit of a push on Headbangers Ball. Not much. I mean, a push enough that I knew what it was. But it didn't do the kind of business that I think Arista Records was hoping for. So they were a band out of Lawrence, Kansas that actually kind of stemmed from another band called Kill Whitey. But this band sounds a lot different. This is for fans of that groovy, alternative, heavy, helmet-ish type stuff. But I love this album, but I think a big thing that I love about this album is nobody makes shit that sounds like this anymore. So you put it on and you're immediately transported to 1993. Here's the dudes in Stick. Anyway, this is kind of like a Bands You Should Know. They did an album after this called Disgruntled Ex-Employee that's also good. A little bit different from this too, so they gave you a little different flavor. You know how much I love that. But that was on an indie label, and I think that also didn't go very well either, and then the band split up. And as far as I know, most of them don't even do music anymore. If anybody from Stick is out there, or if anybody knows anybody that was in Stick, send them my way, because I'd love to interview anybody or just pick their brains, because you know how I am about these bands that I think should have been bigger and they weren't, during a time where there was this huge flood of like all kinds of bands getting signed up. All bands that I never would have heard Stick if Arista Records had not signed them. So that's one of the reasons why that time was fucking beautiful. I know I've said that a lot on my channel, but it's true. VHSs. All right, before we go, once again, I have a VHS to talk about. Once again, one of these really cool rock video monthlies. Look, you get a little David Vincent right there on the cover. For those of you who missed it last time, this was a video subscription type thing where every month you got one of these video cassettes that had 10 music videos on it of what they thought were up and coming or artists that had a buzz. They don't use that term anymore. They used to be thrown around all the time back in the 90s. But on this particular issue, we have Babes in Toyland with He's My Thing, Candlebox with Change, Galactic Cowboys from right here in Houston, Texas with If I Were a Killer song. Kiss with I Love It Loud from Alive 3. Vince Neil with Can't Have Your Cake. Living Color with Nothingness. Fucking great song. Merciful Fate with Morbid Angel with fucking Rapture. Tribe After Tribe with Ice Below. I don't remember that song. Looks like I gotta put this video on, guys. And finally, last but not least, White Zombie with Welcome to Planet Motherfucker. All of that shit, minus Tribe After Tribe and Merciful Fate, was stuff that I was really interested in at the time. So as usual, you throw that on and I am transported all the way back to September 1993, where you have been here with me today, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much, but that's all I got. And of course, you know, I will be back next month talking about October, because that's how the order of the months work. So, without further ado, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all again very soon.